Hey, Pete216 Date here, and in today's video, we'll be looking at the top 7 reviews of the amazing brand new super powerful handheld, the Asus ROG Ally, that have just come out over the last few days. We've never had it so good as gamers, as the first true alternative to the incredible Steam Deck had its launch event just a few days ago. In fact, I recently did a video covering all of the key info, so don't forget to check that out. Before we get started, I just want to say a massive thank you for all of your amazing support to the channel. As of this recording, we've now blitzed through 36,000 views and over 1,200 watched hours after only launching the channel just 4 weeks ago. If you enjoy these videos, then please like and subscribe to help us on our way to our next milestone of 500 subscribers. So please share with your friends. And thank you so much for all of your positive comments, such as 10 Bears Blythe, who sends their greetings from Wales and says well done on setting up the channel and hope it does well. Well, thanks so much 10 Bears, that really means so much. Let us know in the comments whereabouts you're all watching from to also get a shout out. I'll personally try to reply to as many comments as I can, so keep them coming. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start with the battery of the ROG Ally, and the amazing tech Spurt summed up in one of the very best words in the English language his assessment, so let's check it out.
Which brings us on to battery life, and unfortunately the ROG Ally is very similar to a lot of big rivals in this regard because the battery life is cack. If you're playing anything in the turbo performance mode, you can basically watch that percentage drop in real time. You'll be lucky to get an hour of play out of this thing. Of course, if you bump down the performance mode a bit and you're playing less intensive titles, you can drag a couple of hours out of this thing, but yeah, I'd say slightly underneath what I get from the Steam Deck.
And in his overall conclusion, he praised the great display, wide variety of gaming services, and the performance of most AAA games, with the battery being the biggest letdown area.
Certainly a strong competitor to the likes of the Steam Deck, especially if you like to use a variety of gaming services, with the added advantage of the upgraded display, a bright 120Hz Full HD panel. I also really like the armory crate and the general UI. It's definitely a step up from the likes of the Ianios with that eye space, which is just a bit messy and buggy and blah. Of course, while the performance is fantastic, it's not enough of an upgrade to be able to play titles like Returnal, but still good enough for most AAA titles out there, and certainly older fare runs like a dream. If only they could somehow magic up a handheld that can last a good 5 or 6 hours while blasting through these titles, that would be an absolute game changer.
At number 6 in our reviews is SuperSaf, who longed for a device just like the Ally 4 years ago, and in his glowing review is so happy to finally have one, especially on long flights.
A few years ago, I tweeted this because I'm always on long flights and I wanted something that would let me play AAA games without having to carry a bulky laptops. And I think with this, I have found my perfect travel companion, or Ally.
At number 5 in our reviews is the Tech Chap, who compared the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally as his 2 kids.
Handheld. I don't have kids yet, but I feel like it's having 2 children that you love very much and equally, but you love one a bit more equally than the other. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
In his summary, he said the Ally is a steal at $699 for the top spec model. Although similar to the Steam Deck, it isn't going to replace your PS5, Series X or gaming PC anytime soon.
So the ROG Ally is certainly not perfect. Windows 11 is quite clunky, I've had quite a few crashes, and I've had to sort of force close applications. Not all games I actually want to play do run on this, although that should improve over time. This hasn't actually been launched yet, so we will see further updates. The thumbsticks, the latencies is a bit of an issue right now. Also, the viewing angles on the LCD screen aren't fantastic. I also miss the Steam Deck's touchpads, and the battery life is still a bit rough. So there's definitely room for improvement. But even though this is a first-gen device for Asus ROG, it actually feels more like a second generation as it stands on the shoulders of the excellent Steam Deck. I think the key thing to keep in mind is this isn't going to replace your PS5 or your proper desktop gaming PC. Sure, it can play Red Dead on low at 720p and get 60 FPS or so, but that's not really how I want to play that game. I think the Ally, like the Steam Deck, is best for revisiting older, indie, emulator games, or even streaming with Xbox Cloud or GeForce Now. But for $699 for this top-spec Z1 Extreme version, I think it's a steal, and if you go in with the right expectations, you're not going to be disappointed.
In at number 4 is the fantastic Mrwhosetheboss, who along with Tech Spurt lamented the poor battery life, and together with having to put up with all the small annoyances that the Ally offers, suggests that it actually may be best to wait for the Switch 2 or Switch Pro, which is sure to come out later this year or next year.
That is a deciding factor. I mean, sure, you could say, well, the Switch is only running Mario Kart, that was running a proper PC title, but that is the entire point of the device. Now, you can force the chip to consume a lower wattage and push up the battery all the way to about 4 hours, but that's only going to work if you wanted to also scale down the quality of the game you were playing on it, to the point where what you have would be no better looking than the Switch. This feeling that the ROG can give you when everything just works, it is basically everything I've ever dreamed of since I was this tall. But unless you've really done your research and you're happy to put up with all the grievances that come with it, for an average user, I think the traditional handheld is still the better option. Not to mention that the Switch is due an upgrade in the next couple of years, which should hopefully bridge a lot of the gap in terms of graphics, while also giving you the conveniences of a purpose-built gaming machine.
At number 3 is our hero Linus, who also highly praised the $699 price point of the Extreme Edition, predicted that it will sell loads of units, and said don't forget about the Steam Deck, as that does offer benefits over the Ally.
For the next generation product. To undercut them by literally $400 at the same spec, Asus needs to move a lot more than thousands of units. They need to move hundreds of thousands of units. The good news for Asus, though, is that they will. Eventually. Because I strongly recommend this thing. At least I do until more competition shows up. But because of that recommendation, the fact that this thing is so competitive, the bad news is I suspect it's going to be out of stock everywhere for weeks or even for months. The bright side of that is that, hey, for the time being, the Steam Deck is a much more okay option still than Asus made it out to be. Its software is more mature, it manages better battery life in low power mode, and it's got a much more robust accessory ecosystem, including third-party Hall effect joysticks.
At number 2 in our reviews of the Ally is ETA Prime, who did a great comparison video against the Steam Deck and said that if you're happy with your Steam Deck, then stick to that, but that he would recommend the Ally over the Deck due to the great screen and the power that the Z1 chip offers.
If I was in the market right now for a handheld and it was a toss-up between the Ally and the Steam Deck, I would go with the Ally, just because I know it's got newer architecture on the CPU and GPU. Plus, we've got an absolutely beautiful 120Hz display. And when it comes to emulation, it's second to none right now. That Z1 Extreme handles emulation like a boss. If you've got a Steam Deck, you're happy with it, keep it. If you're in the market, I would go ahead and look into getting something a little newer like the ROG Ally, if you're interested.
And finally, at number 1 is the legend that is Russ over at Retro Game Corps, who in the most thorough and in-depth review of the Ally on this entire list, said that while he isn't going to sell his Steam Deck to get one, he does see himself using it alongside the Steam Deck, replacing other handhelds Russ uses like the GPD Win 4.
Like SteamOS. In the end, I found myself pleasantly surprised by the Asus ROG Ally. When I first saw the announcement, I was a little bit lukewarm about the idea, but actually having it in my hands has made me a fan, and I think they did a very good job at having it reasonably priced. Before today, hands down, the Steam Deck was the best thing you could buy for the money, but here we are with a handheld PC that has much better performance and a better screen, while still being within $50 of the high-end Steam Deck. And so here's the way I'm thinking about it. If you have a Steam Deck and you're happy with it, I don't really think it's worth the upgrade to get this one too. However, if you do own a Steam Deck and you wish it had a little bit better performance or screen, or it's a little bit too big for you, then I think the ROG Ally might be worth considering. And then finally, if you don't have a Steam Deck, but you're interested in getting one, I think that the ROG Ally might be worth your consideration as well. To sum it up, I would say that the only reason that the ROG Ally exists and at this price is because of the Steam Deck. However, if we were in a world without the Steam Deck, then this would be the handheld PC to get. And even then, with the Steam Deck being readily available, I think this is still a very good handheld. I'm personally not at the point where I'm going to sell my Steam Deck because this is the one for me, but all the same, it does have me second guessing the fact that I have a GBD Win 4.
So there we have it, 7 of the top reviews of the brilliant Asus ROG Ally. If you do want to watch the full in-depth reviews of the Ally, then all the links are in the description below, and I'd highly recommend checking them all out. And I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below. Are you planning to buy the ROG Ally? Or are you happy sticking with your current handheld like the Steam Deck or Switch? Well, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.